Malte, welcome to the Democratizing SEO podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Very well. Thank you so much for your time. I came across you just by scrolling on LinkedIn and I saw your 3X framework, which I thought was very fascinating. And I think SEOs will have a lot of value from this. So thank you so much for your time. I think we're going to have a brilliant conversation. I'm curious. You've been in SEO for a very long time, but I always like to ask, how did you venture into becoming an SEO professional?
Oh, completely by accident. I was, as a kid, always a bit of a nerd. So, of course, I was the guy who set up like a forum, internet message board for my friends and me to chat, about like which party to go to, what to do after school, these kinds of things. And at some point, people started registering there whom I haven't told the URL. And I was like, how did you find it? Like, who told you? And they were like, I just searched on Google on like local city and things
Right.
to do, a local city party. And then I started reading up on things. I discovered PageRank. I discovered SEO. And I started building from there. And after a while, I realized, okay, actually with party pictures, I can't make any money. Nobody wants to run advertising. So I created at first just a landing page for vacation rentals and hotels in my hometown. And then it grew and grew and grew. And suddenly I had 50 websites. And that's how I ended up in SEO.
Awesome. Awesome. As a leader in SEO, would you say you have a preferred area or an aspect of
No, actually
SEO?
not. Actually not. I have always been able to adapt to whatever is needed. And the one thing I dislike is doing the same thing for like years.
Right.
And I've been fortunate enough and lucky enough in my career that even if my job title didn't change, I always had something new and, always like a new challenge, a new perspective. And, so the only thing I dislike is like boredom or like monotonous things. And otherwise I'm very easy. I also have very thick skin. I'm very agile. I just adapt to everything that is thrown at me.
Mhm. I think that's a very interesting quality for an SEO leader because they put business over, if you like, best practices SEO stuff. So the SEO that they carried out is what's needed by the business for the business. And I think that mindset, I think lines up nicely with the way some SEOs think in that they do not like boredom at all. And SEO, because it's wide and fast, it allows them to touch on different areas, for a business and essentially grow a business via SEO, doing different things depending on what the business needs. So yeah, I kind of, it makes sense now from speaking with you and from having a look at your LinkedIn profile, why you, don't necessarily have a specific area pillar of SEO that you focus on. You're more for SEO within a business type of person. Your three types of SEO leaders is fascinating. I want to delve into each one of them. Could you just give an overview of each one? What are the three different types of SEO leaders?
Sure. So first of all, I have to say I didn't invent this. I took two frameworks from other areas and adapted them for SEO.
Hmm.
And to name the names here, I used the 3X framework from Kent Beck, who basically said every company has three phases. So also every big project, every big product, you have an explore phase, an expand phase, and then once you have reached maturity, you have an extraction phase. And as a business, you're looking for very different qualities in whoever is leading this. And then there's Shreyas Doshi, former Stripe, Google, Twitter, I believe, PM, who created these PM leadership archetypes, the operator, the craftsperson, the visionary, and he also mapped this to the explore, expand, extract phases. And since many aspects of SEO are very similar to product management, I
Hmm.
thought this could also work for SEO, and that's how I started thinking about it. And basically there are these three big personality types, right? One is the operator. The operator is a very good communicator, is driving cross-organization alignment, is good at like building up and scaling teams, is very focused on unblocking execution. So it's the kind of leader who comes in the meeting and says like, what are the blockers for our top 3 project, and then just works on those. And the operator will spend most of their time with non-SEO peers. So he will not speak to the SEO team leads and the SEO experts. He would rather talk to maybe a head of content, maybe a team lead for engineering, maybe a product manager, maybe the CEO, maybe the CFO, the CMO. So the operator will work a lot on creating awareness for SEO in the organization and making sure SEO initiatives are tied to company initiatives. And he might actually lack, or they might actually lack, very deep SEO insight. So the operator can be a manager type or business type with understanding of SEO, but this person doesn't need to be an expert on, let's say, JavaScript SEO or what kind of schema marker does an e-commerce page need. They will have a team for that. Mm-hmm. And often the operator is also able to attract very talented people because they can give them a lot of freedom. And to be honest, the operator often has to give their experts a lot of freedom because they are not an expert themselves. Not necessarily. Maybe they are and just not showing it. And the operator is very strong in the later phases of a company. So if a startup has reached some level of maturity, the operator can help scale it up. The operator can help run SEO for a grown-up company. But for a startup that's just starting, that is like saying, okay, what is our first website gonna look like? There the operator will fail because there probably you don't even need an SEO leader at that stage. You need like one very good SEO. Mm-hmm. And if you have an SEO leader at that stage, they need to be an expert themselves because like a startup that hasn't reached product market fit, that is in this explore phase, it's all about making very, very quick decision. It's not about being a democracy. It's not about asking everyone for their input. It's really about making 10, 50 decisions per week and iterating quickly, learning what is wrong, what is right. That is not where the operator is strong. Mm. There's a second personality type. And by the way, feel free to interrupt me at any time.
No, sure. I'm fascinated with what you're saying. So please continue.
Okay. The second type is the craftsperson. The craftsperson is an SEO by heart. Right? This is not somebody who rose up in marketing, became a leader, and then discovered SEO. This is somebody who has been doing SEO and then became a leader by being in good SEO. And the craftsperson will define the SEO strategy. The craftsperson will spend a lot of time with the SEO team. This is potentially a leader who actually has deeper knowledge of SEO than anybody in their team. And will work on like coaching people, helping them with initiatives. The craftsperson leader might even start the top 3 initiatives and then just use the team to expand and use the team basically to grow their influence, multiply it. The craftsperson has very, very deep SEO knowledge, is like an SEO expert themselves, and can also sometimes do very, very deep analysis on their own. Like the craftsperson might be the kind of leader who says, I don't do any meetings on Friday. Friday is blocked right. To have a like 6-hour block of uninterrupted work where I can dive very deeply in maybe log files, maybe Google Search Console, just where they don't want to just talk to an analyst and say, these are my 3 questions. Can you answer them over the next 3 months? They need uninterrupted time to work on things themselves. And they are also not happy with just setting the strategy and goals. The craftsperson will often start the project, define exactly what has to be done. And often the craftsperson is focused on just SEO, sometimes even just one area of SEO. So the craftsperson might be super focused on content marketing and digital PR, or might be super focused on technical SEO. And maybe even disregard something like content or links just to purely focus on the technical aspect. Right. And the craftsperson has often trouble in big companies because they are so solely focused on SEO. They don't take the time to sit down with the CFO and ask them, hey, SEO is a bit hard to forecast. That's probably a problem for you. How can I alleviate this pain that you have? The craftsperson often doesn't take the time to sit down with other marketing leaders, say, hey, I know SEO is often not about running campaigns, especially technical SEO is just not about marketing campaigns, but still I would like to understand, what are you doing? The craftsperson doesn't do it, right? They are just focused on SEO. That can lead to trouble in larger organizations.
Right. Okay. This is interesting. I have several questions that I want to delve into. But before we do that, before I get to those questions, what is the third one, the visionary leader? If you can explain that, and then I'll ask just general questions around the three types.
Yeah, sure. So the visionary is the big picture thinker. So they are not solely focused on one aspect of SEO, but rather they see SEO as part of the whole. And they might even have an SEO strategy that it's so big that it becomes the product vision or that it becomes the company vision.
Right.
And they are always focused on what's next. They are often bored as soon as a project is started. They're like, okay, like we already talked about the goals. We talked about the impact. We did the business case. Just do it. Like, I don't care. They are often not strong at execution even. Like, it bores them or it drains them. Like, like everybody has work that drains them and work that gives them energy. The visionary wants to set the vision, work on strategy, always like look at the next thing. Normally not the best at executing and just doing the things. The visionary is often very strong at a startup because everything is about vision, right? When you don't have a website, it really doesn't matter how strong you are at log file analysis or working with Google Search Console. There's just no traffic and no content, right? It's about imagining the thing that is missing, like building the next comparison website for, I don't know, leather phone cases, whatever, like having like an idea of something big. And they can be very hard to manage, because they always want to work on vision, on strategy, and they tend to not be excellent at managing people. Sometimes just for a lack of like just not caring about it. And I don't mean this in a mean way. It's just like they care more about the vision and the big thing and where the company should move, how SEO can help, and less about, I'm going to help this junior employee overcome their imposter syndrome, or, oh, this person is sad, I'm going to be extra nice to them this week. It's just not what energizes them. And the visionary can work as a startup when there is just nothing. They can also work at a very, very late stage when like things are running, but they are normally not very good in the scale up phase where everything is about, okay, we know what to do. We now just need double the amount, twice the amount, add monitoring, add some people, maybe split a team, maybe introduce a channel owner role, maybe build up team leads. Like this is where the visionary is out, right? But the very early phase, the very late phase, that's where the visionary normally strives.
So I take it there are crossovers with these three. Is it a case of a person, let's say their personality or character, naturally gravitates to one of these three?
Yeah, I think as with any kind of trying to formalize personality, almost nobody is perfectly falling into one of these three buckets. Most people might have like, okay, I'm an operator, but I also a little bit of a craftsperson. Some people are all three. Like in my career in different jobs, I've realized, thinking back about it, that I probably have been all three of these. And I think also every great leader has to be able to wear all three hats, depending on what is needed. And in many cases, it's also not about being able to be the craftsperson and think like a craftsperson, act like a craftsperson. It could also be about, is it interesting for you? Is it boring? Because some people, they might be an operator just by being themselves, coming to work, making decisions without thinking, like in the mindset of the think fast and slow, like just making everything on autopilot. But being the craftsperson might be difficult for them, or it might drain their energy if they have to be the visionary. They can do it, but it might not be what fulfills them, right? And then you always need to think, I can do this for a while, but probably if I take a job for the next 20 years where I have to be the visionary, if it's not what you want to do, what you are good at, you will either not be happy or not be good at it. And
right.
I try to avoid telling people to like, okay, you need to identify which of the three you are and just act like that. That's limiting. But it can really help to think, I'm coming to work today. What mindset do I need? That's where it helps me a lot.
Yeah.
And also to think about this, what kind of work do I actually enjoy and what drains me? And especially if you are a leader of leaders, like me, I have 3 team leads, depending on how you count, 4. So I also need to think about what kind of leaders do I actually need for my teams to manage them in the way that A is like working very well in tandem with me. But B also is what does the team need, right? If there's a completely new team for, I don't know, voice search, I would need a visionary. I don't need a craftsperson to scale it up. I need a visionary to really think about how can voice search function? How can we optimize for it, right? And on the other hand, if I have a very mature feature, I'm just handing it off to someone, I will probably want an operator personality because I know they will enjoy this. They can do this for a couple of years without getting bored. And this is, I think, also where this really comes in handy. So I would also suggest reading up on this framework for everyone who's not an SEO, but needs to hire one and just to think about what qualities do I want. And then you can style the job ad, the interview process, if there's a case study, the case study, you can tailor it towards the skills that you need. And this is, I think, where the frameworks really come in handy.
So if an SEO is, let's say you require an SEO to be more of one of the other 3, how do you essentially have them in the, if you like, the appropriate mindset for what is needed? So let's say an operator, you need them to be more of a craftsperson for, I don't know, a period of 3 months. How do you influence them to switch their mindset and gear to that, to what's needed?
I think it depends on where you work. I was lucky enough to always work at companies where there was a very high level of psychological safety. So I always make sure everybody in my team can say, I don't know, I made a mistake and I need help. And everybody knows you don't get punished for these. And then I'm very open about it. I very directly tell people, I know you don't like it. I know it's not your strength. I need you to do it for the next 3 months. And it has never ever backfired on me. Now there are companies where psychological safety might be more rare, where people are afraid of failing, where, especially in the United States, you find these companies where like you always need to show good results to get the bonus, which is also then a big part of your salary, where performance reviews are super important, where you are afraid to be put on a PIP or PIP, like basically, oh, you're not excellent, time to manage you out. And then people are sometimes more afraid of these things. And then, especially if you're new in this team as a leader, like let's say you I start as a leader like last week, and then I'm told you have this person, he's really bad at this, but you need to tell them to do it. Maybe I can't be open, I don't know yet. And then I would look at the sub skills. Like, I think you use the operator as the example. So I would think about, okay, they need to be a good communicator. They need to do cross-org alignment, need to scale teams. I would think, okay, for these 3 things, are they already good at one of these? Let's say they are already good communicators. So I actually need to tackle cross-org alignment and scaling teams. And then I try to just break these down in sub skills. Like, for cross-org alignment, what do you need? You need to understand the org chart. You need to understand the overall business model of the company. If you are talking to the higher management, you need some understanding of the PL like P&L, like the profit and loss, all the cash flow in the company, basically, because you need to know, are you now talking to the leader who is bringing all the profit for the company? Or are you talking to the person who is spending billions on R&D and still needs to find a way to be profitable, because they will have different problems, different mindsets. And if you're a little bit egoistic, they might also be of different importance for yourself. And just, so I would probably sit down with them and go through the org chart and explain the business model and try to draw the company either as a flow of activities or as a combination of flywheels that tie into each other, just to make sure they understand the whole company and all the teams and how they are part of the value creation chain. And then they can have much better communication or conversation with these stakeholders. I would also teach them that they need to understand what everybody's goals are. Like you can't go to a head of product and pitch your SEO idea, right? You first go to them, ask them, what are your goals? What are your challenges? And then if you are in America, I would ask, what is your bonus tied to? In Europe, people will be offended by this question in many cases. In the US, I've realized you can just ask it, like, what is your bonus tied to? People will tell you. By the way, also, if you're an SEO freelancer or agency, always ask the person who hires you what their bonus is tied to and make sure everything you do helps them achieve that. And then let's say it is head of product and they tell me that their bonus is tied to, I don't know, revenue per URL, whatever, or having a reliable website, like fast and reliable website is maybe the easiest one. I would position Core Web Vitals, right? I would say, oh, actually there's this framework from Google. There are some metrics. There's lots of documentation. If we are a big company, we can even call Google and they will help us with optimizing Core Web Vitals. And then you get a tiny SEO win without actually asking for it, right? You were basically just helpful with Core Web Vitals. Or let's say the reverse. You talk to a head of technology and they say, I can't convince senior management we need a fast website. Again, you can say, oh, I have all this material from Google that is tailored toward company executives to say a fast website is important. And again, you probably like to have the fast website as the SEO. So you can really help the head of technology get it prioritized on the company level. Or you might talk to a director of content and they are telling you, yeah, my big goal is to hire 3 more FTEs for content creation, but my manager will not allow it. Like the chief, officer doesn't see the value. And again, you can partner with them and you can say, well, let's make a business case. I want a knowledge base for SEO and I need probably 2 content people for it. So I can actually help you get 2 of your 3 FTEs that you want to pitch for if you promise to get my knowledge base done. And like these kinds of things that come naturally to me when I'm in the operator mode, I would just try to teach them and just make them do it once or twice, see the value. And then they basically are an operator, maybe without realizing it. Right. And I think the important part is always to break every skill down into the sub-skills. Like if it's communicator, the sub-skills are, I need to be able to write in a way that people understand without expert knowledge. I need to be able to write, I always call it write emails like a CEO. Like don't write these long emails, just write very quickly what you need while being respectful. Don't write people a message like, hey, do you have a minute in chat and then wait, like write them your need. Also if you ask people something, always ask them in a way in your email that they can either reply yes or no. Never ask them 3 difficult questions in one email, then you will just not get an answer. Be able to do small talk. Yeah. I mean, for some people that's naturally. For me, I'm a bit of a shy introvert. Like I had to learn small talk. I still am learning it. And then again, it depends on where you are. Like if you're in Germany, learn to talk about soccer. Actually, if you're anywhere in Europe, learn to talk about soccer. In the US, understand that you just say, hey, how you doing? Without expecting somebody to give you a 10-minute monologue of how they're actually doing. and just learn how to make quick, easy conversation, right? And if you've mastered all of these, you're already a good communicator without ever going to a course on how to be a good communicator. I forgot listening skills. Those are, of course, also very important for being a good communicator. And just break it down. And then if you break down these complex skills, often you come up with 4, 5, 6 things. Read a book for one of them, listen to 2 or 3 podcasts for the other, just talk to someone for the next. It's, you don't need to find a magical solution to master any skill. You just need to find the sub skills and then get better at 1 or 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, totally. It sounds as though, and you come across as though, soft skills, for your position or your experience today has been extremely valuable. I'm curious, do you put soft skills over hard skills, hard SEO skills?
It depends on the role. In a leader who is managing experienced SEOs, yes, I would put I would put soft skills before hard skills. If it's a startup, I need hard skills in the leader because they need to make the decisions. Also, if it's a team of junior SEOs, the leader needs to have hard skills. It's more important than the soft skills. And yeah, I've seen both work. Like I know teams that work very well, where the leader has very strong hard skills and then a more junior team around them that they are building up skill-wise. And I've seen it work that a leader with very good soft skills actually is managing SEOs that are, to be honest, better SEOs than themselves, that are more senior, in terms of SEO knowledge and especially technical SEO knowledge. Like both settings can work. Depending on the company and the challenge the company is facing.
All right. Now, when it comes to managing up, if you have these, if you're aware of these 3 different types of SEO leaders, I'm sure you'll identify a similar trait with one's own a leader, right? So when it comes to managing up and you identify that actually my boss doesn't have this leadership quality and he has this leadership quality, not this one. And this is actually the one that's needed right now. How do you go about communicating this to your boss?
First of all, I would ask myself if I need to say this to my boss. I mean, in general, when you say something you're not sure of, always think, first of all, does this have to be said out loud? Like, is this, even if it's a true statement, is it required that somebody says it? The second question is, are you the person who need to say it? And then the third would be, what's the right time? And if the answer to any of these is no, just don't say it. Like, just because it's true doesn't mean you have to say it. I've had managers where I had very good relationships, and I would just straight out say it. I would say, hey, I think for this project you're doing a shitty job. I think you are acting like this, but I think you should act like this. And I actually once had a manager who told me, like, please call me out on it if I'm like too harsh in a certain project or if I do something wrong. But I've also had leaders who would not have received it well. Like I once had a boss who basically told me, why would you come to me with a problem? I pay you to come to me with solutions. Okay. Thanks for the feedback. I will not give this boss ever again the feedback that they did something wrong. By the way, that boss apologized to me a while later after they talked to other people and realized that what I told them was actually true. But not everybody receives it well. So one thing you can do if you see your boss is a visionary and a craftsperson, you can think for yourself, I probably need to be an operator to take some of the stuff away from them that they don't like to do. And in general, this is the best tip for managing up. Like, find the one thing that your boss is not good at and do that. Do that for them. Like, even if it goes beyond the scope of your role, it will make your boss an even better leader because they don't have to do that one thing that they are not good at. And it helps you to like position yourself for like the next step, right? The next growth, the next promotion. And For example, I am very, very bad at project management. I mean, I've been a project manager, actually. It was my job title when I was many years ago, and I can do it, but it drains me. I do 2 or 3 meetings a day where I'm the project manager, where I ask people like, did you do this? What is the deadline? Who's taking care of it? It drains me. I do 2 hours of this in the morning. My workday is done. I can't continue. On the other hand, if I have to have 6 one-on-ones in one day where people come to me with their problems, and then I have a 3-hour workshop on strategy, I love it. I come home super energized, and I have the energy to go to the gym in the evening. I go for a 1-hour walk, whatever. I'm like super stoked. So I have one of my team leads also knows about this, and she's taking care a lot of this like project management, defining the process after we talked about roughly what the process should look like, iterating on the processes in small steps. And we are working very well together because of that. And if you can do that for your manager, they will appreciate it, and you will learn more because you get in this one area where your manager or your boss doesn't want to do it or doesn't like doing it. They will also pile some work on you. Like, let's say you're a team lead, they might pile work on you that's on director level. When I was director at Searchmetrics, I had work piled on my desk that was probably VP level. And it can really help accelerate your career and form a great working relationships. And also you benefit if your boss is not in a bad mood all the time because they don't have to do the work anymore that they don't like to do. So yeah, absolutely. If you recognize your boss is a visionary and an operator, be the craftsperson. If you realize they are a visionary craftsperson, be the operator, etc., etc.
Now, as someone who's worked in-house, I'm sure you've either first-hand experience or second-hand experience of a lot of infighting. So what you've mentioned sounds great in an ideal world, but there'll be a lot of businesses where, because SEO is so new, people almost don't want to take any responsibility for any of the issues that are to do with SEO. So they almost do the opposite of what you're saying in terms of collaborating. They have an environment where there is a lot of infighting. Have you experienced this, and how do you navigate this to change it to be more of a collaborative environment rather than a finger pointing environment?
I have experienced it, not as an in-house SEO, but in another in-house role, and many, many times as a consultant and external support.
Right.
If I had a recipe that always works, I would write a book about it and sell slots to a seminar for 50,000 euros a piece, and I would be a millionaire. I think what can help is to identify the underlying problems. And often it's like, in German, there's the saying, the fish starts smelling from the head. I don't know how well it translates into English.
I get that.
Often it comes from leadership, right? There is some level of insecurity. Maybe there's a problem that the leadership team is hiding, but there's normally a reason. Like, nobody wakes up and decides, I want to build a company with a lot of fighting, right? And at one job I had, it turned out that the product leader and the chief marketing officer had very different opinions. And instead of solving them, they were telling it their teams. Like, I was sent, as I was working the product side, I was sent into one direction and the marketing team was sent in another direction. And then when I met on the operational level with my marketing peers, we had prepared completely different things. It didn't match at all. And we had lots of discussions, like asking ourselves, what is wrong with you? Like, obviously the goal from the leadership team is to do this, and the marketing team had a different goal. And every single time it happened, at some point, the head of marketing and me, we realized, we were told completely different things by the CTO and the CMO. And I told this to the CTO and CMO many times, like, hey, if you two guys don't discuss your problems and don't come to an agreement, or at least alignment, and you just give different tasks into your teams, you are just making us fight. And at that time, I was at a company where I had a lot of influence. I could win the fight, but I would sacrifice my working relationship with the marketing team. And I told this to the CTO like multiple times, like, hey, the campaign was now done the way you wanted it, but the marketing team had prepared something else. We had to throw away a lot of work. They are really angry with me. Please talk to the CMO the next time. Like, this will not work. And in the end, it didn't work out until one of them left. Like, if your leadership team is not aligned, it is very, very tough for you on the operational level to get it done. Just make it transparent to your peers. Like, hey, I think the two of us have different tasks. Let's not fight. Let's try how we can make both goals work. Or let's let's make a proposal, take that again to the senior leadership team, or let's escalate to the CEO, whatever. Like, let's make it very clear that we try to collaborate, but that we couldn't come to like an agreement because we had different goals. And then let's ask the leadership team, hey, which goal is more important? And then once we have that feedback, again, let's just work with it. And if the problem is more on the smaller level, like I had this once when we did a bit of a transformation in a product and engineering department. I think it's important to listen to everyone and then be super transparent and over communicate and don't try to change everything overnight. Like, just make it like, have a few key messages that you repeat. Like, we need SEO for profitability. SEO is actually no longer spam. It's now very much in line with good user experience and a fast website. And the SEO team doesn't just want to give you a list of ideas to work on. We want to collaborate with you, and we can actually help you reach your goals. And then do it step by step. Like, make sure you have a big meeting with everybody involved. It will be super inefficient meeting because you have so many people in the room, but it's sometimes important to have everybody on board. Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to see, okay, this is why we do SEO. And then once there's like a level of trust in the department, scale it down. So maybe for the next quarter, you don't need like the big all-day workshop with everyone. You just talk to the product managers, product owners. You tell, hey, these are our 3 SEO priorities for the year and for the quarter, and we can do them in parallel to the 3 customer-focused and 1 sales-focused activities. And there's also a less diplomatic way. And once when I was externally, we had to do it that way. We were brought in by an investor who said, I have invested a lot of money into this company. They are currently on the stock market and they just dropped by over $1 billion in total market compensation because they lost their SEO traffic and SEO was actually responsible for their profitability. And we talked mainly to the CEO. And the SEO department was in the CTO's area, and the CTO didn't want to prioritize SEO, didn't believe in it. So we had again talk with the investor, talk with the CEO, and then the CTO was told, your yearly bonus depends on the SEO performance. And we are not talking about the CTO at a company with 50 people. We are talking at a very large US, previously venture-funded tech company on the stock market. This is probably a 7-figure bonus. Like, I actually don't know the exact number, but we are talking about serious money for this person. Yeah. And suddenly SEO was a top priority in the product and technology team. And we actually implemented the fix that needed to be implemented. And actually they became very profitable again. Their valuation of the stock market again rose by 1 billion, I think 1.4 billion or something, actually. It's the most impactful SEO initiative I was ever involved in. Because it was one SEO change that led to most of the uplift. There were many other things. So the investor was happy, company was happy, we were happy. But you can only you should be very careful about doing this if you're in-house, because probably the CTO doesn't like anybody from that project anymore. And we were external, so we got out.
Right.
But yeah, that can work. Like just influencing people's bonuses, people's goals.
Yeah.
Because then you're not coming as the SEO who's pushing. Then you are like, the CEO gave you the goal for SEO traffic. Yeah, sure, I have some ideas. I can help you. You are no longer pushing your ideas in, right? But again, it's a bit of it's not the nicest move.
No, it's funny how things change when the bottom line is brought to the forefront. And I find it's typical with SEO in that change happens only after an issue has occurred. Even, if you think of it in operational terms, when we create a tech audit or any audit of some sort, we look for issues to resolve them. And I am very keen on having more of a preventative approach to SEO rather than being reactive and letting stuff happen. And I find that one of the reasons why business leaders are very, they don't necessarily concern so much about SEO until there is an issue is because it's so foreign to them. Most business leaders don't necessarily have a background in SEO. It's from traditional marketing or some sort of paid marketing, and SEO is very foreign. So in my idea of what a typical business leader thinks of SEO is, it's all about keywords, links, rankings, and that's pretty much all they know. So they don't necessarily look into the issues until an issue occurs, and then it's like, okay, all hands on deck. You mentioned earlier that at some point, at different points in your career, you've been through the different three leadership approach. One has been more forefront, should we say, than the other two. Is it a case of an issue occurred and within a business, and then you realize you need to switch your mindset to a different type of business leader? Or is there a point in the sand where you say, okay, at this point, I now need to be more this type of a leader?
Yes. I never thought about it, but now that you mention it, yes, actually it happened multiple times. So there were periods when I was the visionary. I was letting the teams run all the operational things. I was only thinking about like what's next, right? And then something broke. And then I realized, okay, I need to go into the operator/craftsperson role a bit more. Need to make sure we have the right processes in place. Need to make sure we have monitoring, alerting. So yes, this happened. And there was a time in my career when I was like the visionary and craftsperson, but I forgot to be the operator. And I had to like remind myself like, hey, I need to talk more to my peers to make sure that also next year we can prioritize SEO initiatives. And I realized that when there was the first quarter where no SEO tasks were prioritized, I was like, what's happening? This never happened to me. Like, what did I do wrong? I realized, okay, I spent very little time with anybody outside the SEO team. So I started doing this operator thing more, working on the cross-org alignment. And I also had it once or twice that I like pointed out to a team, hey, something is wrong here. We looked at it, nothing is wrong. Or yeah, maybe, but we don't know what. I pointed a KPI. This KPI is going up. Why? This shouldn't be happening. Like something doesn't match, something doesn't work out. And then I didn't get the answer. And then I put fake vacation in my calendar. I said I'm gone for 3 days, and I became the craftsperson, and I dug into the data myself. And only communication I had with anybody was writing an analyst, like, I need this data. Can you send it to me now? Maybe they were a bit confused why I sent this message while I'm supposedly on vacation. But doing these things has actually sometimes helped me either uncover something or form a much stronger opinion on the topic, because I also had a case where I looked and was like, okay, there really doesn't seem to be anything, but I needed to be sure. And I at that time, I wasn't sure that the people I talked to looked into it deeply enough. So I've also done this myself. Yeah, actually many times, and not just in SEO, also when I worked in product management, product marketing, maybe even more often than in SEO. Yeah, I've had these moments where something went wrong, or I felt something was wrong. And I didn't have this framework in my head back then, but now that I think back of it, yeah, I very much changed my behavior and started performing tasks that I had not performed previously.
Now,
thanks for that question. It actually gave me a bit of an insight about how I have acted in the past.
Sure.
I like it.
Pleasure. Now, all of this, right, to me is a trigger that led to something, right? So that trigger in this case, or in the cases that you've mentioned, was an issue, which is common with SEO. And I think this leaves SEOs in a reactive mindset. My point of view with SEO is there are three, of course, SEOs know this. There are three overall issues that can affect a website. If you look at it from a macro point of view, something a competitor does that makes Google favors them, something that Google does, an algorithm update or release, and something that's done internally. Now, the first two, you don't really have control of it. Internally, you have all the control, right? So you ideally have to be more proactive in this area than reactive. What do you think SEOs can do to take more of a proactive approach to their internal triggers, to almost counter those triggers before they become issues?
Funny topic that I actually had conversations about last week and this week. I think for SEO, it's very important to look at your inputs and your outputs if you talk about metrics. And the worst thing you can do is wait until SEO visibility drops or traffic drops and then investigate. What I always tell everybody I'm working with on SEO is you need to understand what are the KPIs that drive your SEO performance. It can be core web vitals. It can be how active is Google crawling your website. It can be your ratio of index, no index sites. It can be how quickly is Google indexing and ranking new sites that you create. It can be the amount of articles you create. The amount of pictures in your online shop that have a description, at least 5 pictures, can be very different per business model, and different SEOs might have different opinions on this. I don't want to debate any of that, but the important part is understand what are the 2 or 5 or 20 things where if these metrics are going up, you are most likely having SEO success, unless an external event happens, as you already mentioned. But also know which are the metrics where if they break, let's say you are a publisher. If the amount of articles you publish in a certain category per day goes down, of course it's going to be bad for your SEO performance long term. And you need to understand what these metrics are, and you need to track them, and you need to have monitoring and alerting. And then you can react to a trend or a change before Google reacts to it. That is how excellent in-house SEO is done. And that is what an operator or a craftsperson leader needs to establish in their teams. And we, in my current role at idealo, we monitor dozens of metrics and have dozens of alerts for various changes, because we know if this change happens, even if many people will think it has nothing to do with SEO, we already know it can cause an SEO issue down the line. And that you need to identify for your business model. And then you need to invest time into monitoring and alerting, and also reacting to these alerts. Because one part is a technical problem, the monitoring. Reacting to the alerts is a very human problem. And you need to also understand, if you send 50 false alerts, at some point people will stop taking them seriously. And you need to really find the right balance there. And you need to also make sure people get praise for checking 50 alerts. Even if they never had to say, it's burning, we need to do something. Even if 50 times they said, I checked the alert, actually everything is fine. Or I checked the alert, it was caused by X. You need to acknowledge it. Because normally what happens is, you are the captain of a ship and you drive it home to the harbor every time. Then you are just the captain of a ship. Great. You get a pat on the shoulder, you get a salary, nobody cares. But if your ship sinks and you are the last person to leave it, you are not just the captain of a ship, you are a hero.
Yeah.
Because people who put out fires are very often internally promoted as heroes. And I've actually seen a case where there was a very, very bad technology leader who always builds stuff in a way that it breaks. And then he would fix it at night or on the weekend or on his vacations. And he was always the hero. But the reality is there were 3 other product or technology leaders who just built reliable product that they never had to do firefighting, or maybe once a year. And this is not just an SEO problem, it's a company problem. You're often promoting or giving bonuses to the firefighters. But actually, you need to promote the people who diligently check every problem before it actually becomes a problem. Yeah. It's not sexy, it's not flashy, but it's so valuable. And as an SEO leader or a leader in any department, you need to acknowledge that if you are operating at a very high level, you will have some people who spend half their day monitoring, reacting to alerts, and putting out tiny, tiny flames before they ever turn into a fire. And you need to acknowledge it, and you need to compensate it. You need to celebrate it. And this is something that many people do wrong. They say, okay, this person is, I don't know, boring, not learning fast. Okay, they can do the monitoring, react to the alerts. This year is the person who's always like jumping in the fire, working on the weekends. They will be the senior expert now because they put out all these fires. But maybe they put out all these fires because they built unstable features, or they designed processes that will break, or they did stuff that is borderline spammy. And I think that is very important to remind yourself that the captain who reaches the harbor on every trip without damaging the boat is actually doing a better job for the company than the captain who stays on board when the ship sinks. Because, I mean, if you're the captain, it's your fault when the ship sinks, right? It doesn't matter if any employee did anything wrong. If you're the captain, the ship sinks, it's your fault. It's the same if you're the SEO leader. If the performance of the websites tanks, you can point at the product team and the technology team and say, you made the website become slow. But I mean, you didn't monitor it. You didn't alert it. You didn't raise it with senior management. It's your fault. Like, I very much believe in complete and radical ownership. And I don't mean it as blaming others. I only mean it for yourself, right? For me. Yeah, I always think of myself as responsible for everything, and I use it to push myself to fix these things. And I can only recommend that to everyone. But don't project it on others. That can lead to very bad results and a lot of blaming and finger pointing.
Well said. I think that is a perfect place to end this on. Lastly, for non-SEO business leaders, I'm sure throughout your career, you thought, I really wish they knew this one thing about SEO. What is that one thing you wish every business leader, non-SEO, knew about SEO?
SEO is not magic. It's not voodoo. And if anybody tells you that they can't explain it to you, you just let to have them do it, they are probably not going to be successful or ripping you off. And a good SEO will explain to you what they are doing, why, and how it interacts with your business. And you deserve to hire a good SEO.
Perfect. Completely agree as well. Malte, thank you so much for your time today. Is there anything you'd like to promote or shout out?
I mean, if you like what you heard today, people can follow me on Twitter or LinkedIn. Nothing else. I have nothing else to promote.
Okay, we'll end it there. Thank you so much for your time today. You've been very valuable, providing brilliant insights, and I'm sure you'll have a lot of people reaching out to you after listening and watching this. Thank you so much. Have a brilliant day. We'll catch up again another time.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Bye now.